If there's a container of leftovers sitting in your fridge right now, please, before you reach for that microwave button, I need 5 minutes of your time. Because there are certain foods you probably eat every single week, that change on a chemical level the moment you reheat them. And I'm not talking about the taste going a little off, or the texture getting rubbery. I'm talking about something happening quietly, invisibly, inside that dish, something most families have no idea is going on. You grew up being taught, waste not, want not. Reheat it, eat it, don't let good food go in the trash. That's what your mother did. That's probably what you do too. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Some foods are perfectly safe the first time you eat them, and something entirely different the second time. Today, I want to walk you through 4 foods in particular. Foods sitting in kitchens across America right now, foods many of us reheat without a second thought. One of them might surprise you completely. It's something you were probably told was healthy. By the end of this, you're going to look at your leftovers a little differently. Not with fear, with knowledge. Because once you know which 4 foods to handle with care and exactly how to store and reheat them the right way, you can protect the people you love without giving up the meals you enjoy. So, let's start with the one that catches almost everyone off guard. Let's start with the food that surprises people the most: spinach. Now, I know what you're thinking. Spinach is one of the healthiest things you can put on your plate. Popeye ate it for a reason, right? And you're not wrong, fresh spinach is packed with iron, fiber, and vitamins your body needs. But here's where things get tricky. Spinach, along with other leafy greens like kale, beets, and celery, naturally contains something called nitrates. On their own, nitrates aren't dangerous. Your body actually uses small amounts of them in healthy ways. The problem starts when that cooked spinach sits in your fridge overnight and then gets reheated. When spinach is reheated, especially in a microwave, those nitrates can convert into compounds called nitrites. And under certain conditions, nitrites can go on to form something called nitrosamines, compounds that researchers have linked to increased cancer risk when consumed regularly over long periods of time. I want to be clear with you here, eating reheated spinach once isn't going to harm you. This isn't about panic. It's about a pattern. It's about what happens when this becomes a weekly habit without you realizing it. Think about how many family dinners include a big pot of spinach, saag, or a green casserole. Think about how often that extra portion goes straight into a container, into the fridge, and comes back out 2 days later, warmed up for a quick lunch. That's exactly the pattern that food safety researchers say to be mindful of. And spinach isn't alone. There's a whole category of vegetables that behave this way, and one of them might already be in your fridge right now, prepped for tomorrow's dinner. But before we get to the rest of that list, I want you to really understand why reheating does this in the first place. Because once you see what's happening at a chemical level, the rest of this video is going to make a lot more sense. So here's what's actually happening when you reheat food. In plain terms, no lab coat required. Heat doesn't just warm food up. It changes it. Proteins reshape themselves. Fats break down. And in vegetables high in nitrates, that second round of heat is often what triggers the conversion into those nitrite compounds we just talked about. Here's where most people make a mistake, though. They assume the microwave is the villain. It's not, exactly. The real issue is time. Specifically, how long that food sat at room temperature or in a lukewarm fridge before it ever got reheated at all. The second food on our list makes this even clearer: rice. You've probably heard whispers about reheated rice being risky and maybe brushed it off as an old wives' tale. It's not. Cooked rice can contain spores of a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. These spores survive the initial cooking. If rice is left sitting out, say, on the counter while the rest of dinner is cleaned up, those spores can multiply and produce a toxin. And here's the surprising part. Reheating won't destroy that toxin, even if the rice gets steaming hot. So it's not really about reheating rice that's dangerous. It's about how the rice was cooled and stored beforehand. Most people don't realize the mistake happened hours before the microwave was ever touched. Now let's talk about the third food, because this one surprises almost every family we hear from: potatoes. A baked potato left wrapped in foil, cooling slowly on the counter. That seems harmless, doesn't it? But that slow cooling in a low-oxygen environment like foil creates conditions where a different type of bacteria can potentially grow, one linked to botulism. I know, that sounds dramatic for something as humble as a potato. And to be fair, this is rare. But it's exactly the kind of everyday habit, one most of us picked up from watching our own parents in the kitchen, that quietly carries more risk than we ever imagined. Which brings us to the fourth food. And this is the one that tends to divide dinner tables, the one almost everyone has an opinion about, and most of those opinions are wrong. That fourth food is chicken. Now, before you start worrying about tonight's leftovers, let's clear something up, because there's a lot of confusion floating around. Chicken itself isn't dangerous to reheat. What really matters, is how quickly it went from your dinner table into the fridge and how thoroughly you heat it back up. Here's the mistake so many households make without even realizing it. Chicken sits out on the counter while everyone finishes eating, chats at the table, maybe watches a little television before anyone thinks about the leftovers. That window of time, sitting at room temperature, is exactly when bacteria like Salmonella can begin multiplying. So, let's talk about what you can actually do about all of this, because I don't want to leave you feeling nervous about your own kitchen. The first habit worth building is what food safety experts call the tower rule. Any cooked food, spinach, rice, potatoes, chicken, all of it, should go into the fridge within 2 hours of cooking. Not after the dishes are done. Not after your evening walk. Within 2 hours. The second habit is portioning. Instead of storing one large pot of leftovers, split it into smaller, shallow containers. Food cools faster and more evenly that way, which cuts down dramatically on the window where bacteria can grow. Third, and this one surprises people, reheat food until it's truly steaming hot all the way through, not just warm on the outside. A quick 30 seconds in the microwave often isn't enough. Stir it partway through so the heat spreads evenly. And finally, give yourself a 2-day rule. Most leftovers, even when stored properly, are best eaten within 2 days. After that, the risk simply isn't worth it, especially for those nitrate-rich vegetables we talked about earlier. None of this means giving up leftovers. It means handling them the way your kitchen deserves, with a little more awareness than you had yesterday. And that awareness is exactly what I want to leave you with. So let's bring this all together, because I want you to walk away from this video feeling equipped, not anxious. Spinach and other nitrate-rich vegetables, cool them quickly, and try not to let them sit in the fridge more than a day or 2 before eating the leftovers. Rice, cool it fast, ideally within an hour, and never let it linger at room temperature. Potatoes, get them out of that foil and into the fridge promptly, especially if they're going to be stored rather than eaten right away. And chicken, the tower rule is your best friend, along with reheating it until it's truly, thoroughly hot. Here's what I really want you to take from today, though. None of these foods are your enemy. Spinach is still one of the best things you can eat. Rice, potatoes, chicken, these are staples for a reason. Foods that have nourished families for generations, including yours. What changes everything isn't the food itself. It's what happens to it in the hours between the stove and your plate. That's the part nobody sat us down and explained. Not our mothers, not our grandmothers, because decades ago, people simply didn't know what we know now. You're not doing anything wrong by learning this today. You're just getting information a little later than you might have liked, and that's completely okay. So tonight, when you're putting away dinner, try just one small change. Get it into the fridge a little sooner than you normally would. Split it into a smaller container. That's it. That one habit alone can make a real difference for you and for everyone at your table. If this video helped you see your kitchen a little differently, I'd love for you to share it with someone you love, a spouse, an adult child, a neighbor who always sends leftovers home with you. Sometimes the people who care for us the most are the ones who need to hear this the most. Take care of yourself. Take care of your kitchen. And I'll see you in the next one.